Are you worried about protecting your legal rights in an uncertain world? How do current events affect the law and you? This is Law Talk Live with your hosts, Chris Dysart and Kelly Jackson on the Big 550 KTRS.
Good afternoon and welcome to Law Talk Live with Chris Dysart with co-host Kelly Jackson on the Big 550 KTRS. How you doing today, Kelly?
I'm doing great. I want to be the first to congratulate you on your inaugural show.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
How exciting is this?
It's pretty exciting.
I know. And for this first show, we have a lot ahead, a lot to talk about.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Today we're going to be talking about how to live in your own home as you age and avoid the nursing home. And if you have any questions during the show, please call us at 314-453-5877.
You know, first, before we get into all that, tell us a little bit about you and what kind of law do you practice?
Well, I'm a former federal prosecutor, and when I was a prosecutor, I prosecuted white-collar crime. Mm-hmm. And then I started defending white-collar people accused of white-collar crime. But then I got into representing people that have been hurt in various situations. For instance, if they've been in a car accident, or if they've been hurt on the job, or if they've been exposed to toxic chemicals, which is a lot of what I do right now. So. Mm-hmm.
A little bit of everything.
Yes, yes.
And so if people want to call in, I mean, we'll be talking about all types of law.
Right,
From news of the weird to personal injury to senior issues, which is such a hot button topic these days.
Yeah, it sure is. And, you know, it really came to light recently with me. I'm 54 years old, and recently, I think my mom's probably listening to this, but hopefully she'll forgive me for talking about it. Recently, my mom fell and broke her hip, and she had to have hip replacement surgery, and then she had to be put in a long-term rehab facility, and she had certain experiences in the long-term rehab facility which really keyed me in on trying to make sure that she could stay out of a nursing home, and then also so that when I get older, I can stay out of a nursing home, and so that my wife can stay out of a nursing home because actually she's more likely to be old enough to live in a nursing home. So, Kelly, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background?
Okay, so I am a news anchor on KSDK, and I do the weekends, so you'll see me all weekend. And during the week, I have a pet business, and I blog. I do everything about pets. So I keep pretty busy. I basically work 7 days a week.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That sounds like fun.
Yes.
Well, I mean, it's good.
It is, though.
It's good, though, right?
Yeah, it is, because I do the things that I love to do. So to me, it doesn't even feel like work. So I love doing this, and, I wouldn't want it any other way. When I came in today and when we were talking about some of the things we were going to discuss, and I told you the irony that you represent people, personal injury, and I happen to have a car accident this week.
Right, yeah.
What are the odds of that happening?
Not very high, I take it. Did you get hurt at all?
No, I wasn't hurt, and the other person involved was not hurt. And even though I won't get into details, about what happened.
Probably a good idea, Kelly.
I know. I'm going to keep mum about that. But I do want to ask you a couple of questions in general about, when you are in an accident. I think I did a couple of things that I know that I should have done that I didn't do. For instance, how do you know how serious is it? How serious is it?
How serious does it have to be?
Oh, my goodness. Yes.
Is that what you're trying to say?
When you should call police, for instance.
Well, obviously, if you get hurt.
Right.
Of course, if you're hurt, you may not be able to call police, but hopefully somebody will call police for you. Mm-hmm. The reason you would call police is to document the collision. And if you're trying to prove, for instance, that the other person is at fault, then you want to call the police even if you're not hurt, because the police will come out and do a police report. And if there's any eyewitnesses, then they'll be part of the police report. And then it's like an official document. You can track those people down later. You can use that to talk to the insurance company when you try to get money for the case or try to get money from the other side's insurance company. So really, any time that there's any property damage to your vehicle, especially if you believe the other person was at fault, you really do need to call the police to make sure you've got a really good record of that.
And if you don't call police, you should get all the vital information. If the accident was kind of minor, then that's when Just get everything that you need.
Right.
Driver's license, license plates,
Right.
all that good stuff.
Right. If you can get the other person to give you their insurance information, you want to capture that as well.
Mm-hmm.
But, but it's best if you can call the police so you can document it, for later use, for however you need to use it. Yeah. But now I want to tell everybody that's listening what we're going to have on the show. We have two guests on the show today. The first guest is Terry Donovan, who's sitting here with me today. Mm-hmm. And he is the owner of a company that's called, what is your company called, Terry?
Chris, it's called Live Well Home Modification Specialists.
Okay, thank you. And we're going to have another guest on the show named Iggy Fanlow. And he's the founder of a company called Lively. It's a Silicon Valley software company. And the idea behind both of these companies is they provide services or products that allow people to stay in their homes, or for your parents to stay in your homes as they get older. It's called, is there a name for staying in your home as you get older, Terry?
Well, we refer to it, Chris, as aging in place.
Okay. I guess we'll just start talking to you. First of all, welcome, Terry Donovan, for coming to the show. And if you can tell us again, the name of your company is Live Well. Can you just tell us, what does that company do?
Well, Chris, first of all, thank you and Kelly for having me on today. I really appreciate that. It's great to be here. Live Well Home Modification Specialist was started with a background very similar to what you're experiencing right now with your mom. My mother had a massive stroke a few years back, and as adult children, my siblings and I found ourselves all of a sudden faced with, well, what do we do? We had never faced this before. I had never even been inside a nursing home before. So here we are faced with what do you do? Mom's in an acute rehab after having had this massive stroke. And after 20 days of being in there, she's not responding to a lot of the treatment. So here we sit down with a case manager, and they tell us, we need to move Mom. They need the room. And that was my first taste of dealing with what insurance is like as well. So
that must have been tough for you to take emotionally, experiencing that with your mom.
Well, it was. I think it was for all for myself as well as my siblings. It was just kind of a whirlwind. And I see this now with a lot of different people where all of a sudden something happens. You could have never imagined it. And the question is, what next?
Because you're never, ever fully prepared when you have a loved one who suffers any type of devastating illness.
Well, you really aren't, Kelly. And as much as you want to prepare, you really don't know what's going to come down the road. And so here my background is in home building. I had been building homes and involved with home building for over 25 years. So it was really a natural for me to find myself looking at what do I do, number one, to attempt to bring Mom home. But just as importantly, what do I do to keep Dad at home, where he very emphatically said, this is where I want to be. And Dad aligns with over 90% of the population who wants to stay at home.
Right. So what happened after that 20 days of your mom being in the rehab? What did you do after that?
Well, we started with the tours of going to this facility, to this nursing home, that facility. And we wound up putting Mom in a facility. Really, it was based in large part on one specific person. We, like so many people, we rest everything on hope that Mom's going to get better. And it was a physical therapist that we were putting a lot of hope in that she was going to whip Mom back into shape and get her back home where we wanted her to be, where I think she wanted to be. And so we based our decisions really on that more than anything.
So then what led you to come up with the idea for your company, Live Well?
Well, I think, Chris, what led to that was just the desire to want to bring Mom home. We knew that Mom wanted to come home, but the house really was not fit for Mom to come home and live in it in its current situation. Like so many houses in St. Louis and across the country, the house that I grew up in was built in the early 1960s. It just did not have any sort of flair to being able to address even the most minor challenges or conditions or needs. So the average age of a house in St. Louis is 1969 is when it was built. So you're looking at a house that's got some age to it, and it just doesn't fit the needs. And so I'm looking at this house saying, we can change this. We can make some changes, and we can certainly keep Dad at home, and we're going to do our best to try and bring Mom home. And while we were not able to do that, and we'll touch on that, we were successful at keeping Dad at home. That wasn't just myself. It was my brothers and sister and I, and I'm very proud and happy of the fact that we kept him at home where he wanted to be all the way to the end. So,
okay. You're listening to Law Talk Live with Chris Dysart and co-host Kelly Jackson. And when we come back, we're going to keep talking to Terry Donovan, and then later we're going to talk to Iggy Fanlow, the founder of a company called Lively.
Law Talk Live continues. Here are your hosts, Chris Dysart and Kelly Jackson on the Big 550 KTRS.
Welcome back. You're listening to Law Talk Live with Chris Dysart and co-host Kelly Jackson on the Big 550 KTRS. And we're talking to Terry Donovan, the owner of Live Well. And Terry, I think we were talking about how you got involved with the business. And so what was the first steps that you took to get that business going?
Well, Chris, one of the first steps I took was I went out and I got my CAPS certification, and that's becoming a certified aging in place specialist. And that was a series of classes that I took to get certified and have a better understanding of a host of different aspects of what aging in place really is. And that's when somebody is wanting to age in the house or the residence that they live in, and yet the home doesn't necessarily change, but all of us will find that at some point in time our bodies change. We find ourselves where perhaps having played sports as our youth, now all of a sudden we've got challenges with our knees, or we've got a challenge with our eyesight. As we all age, we lose 2/3 of certain types of peripheral vision when we hit age 60. And of course, here I have my little magnifying eyeglasses, and I can't read without these. So we find that as we get older, we start to need a lot of these types of devices and crutches and things of that nature.
So when you get that certification, do they teach you about all these issues, or what exactly do they teach you about?
Well, it's an overview, Chris, of learning about certain things, such as an individual who may have a stroke and perhaps his right side paralyzed, and what they have to go through in just doing the basic daily type activities, as we call ADLs, activities of daily living. And there are basic activities such as being able to feed yourself, being able to dress yourself, being able to bathe yourself or use the bath facilities. And so many of these basic activities become so difficult when somebody has a condition or finds themselves trying to recover from an injury or a stroke or something along those lines.
So let me give you an example. Let's say somebody fell and broke their hip, and then they need to get their house fitted so that they can continue to live in their house. What would you do for somebody like that?
Well, typically, Chris, in a situation like that, if somebody falls and breaks their hip, what often happens is they go to the hospital. If they're elderly, they might have a hip replacement. So they have a hip replacement. Then they wind up doing some, hopefully, short-term rehabilitation. And they go into a facility for short-term rehabilitation. They rehab out. They want to rehab out. And here they're coming home to an environment that hasn't changed, but they have. Now they've got a hip replacement. They've got some hip flexor issues. So just the most basic things, such as climbing a set of steps or stepping into or over something, becomes very difficult. So they might call a company like mine that would come out and provide them with a home evaluation. And in this evaluation, We would learn what some of their challenges are, what some of their needs are. We would provide them with an evaluation of things that really need to be looked at or changed or addressed. And it's a process. We don't look at doing everything all at once. It's what's needed at that time.
Is it expensive?
Well, it really isn't, Kelly. In the scope of somebody going into perhaps a facility that would address the rehabbing or going into an assisted or skilled facility where the costs can be upwards of several $1,000s a month. I know in my case personally with my parents, it was well over $5,000 a month for my mom to be in a skilled facility. So when you think in terms of modifying a bathroom, and say a bath modification might be tearing out a tub that hasn't been used in several years, or maybe it's been used as a planter for watering ferns or something, and now we put in a roll-in shower where anybody using it doesn't have to step over something. And the cost of that, say, is $15,000 to do a bath modification. One might look at that and say, well, that's about 2.5 months stay in a assisted facility. So when people ask me questions such as, well, what's the cost? I often will respond with, well, it's about a month stay in a facility, or it's 2.5 months stay.
Now, let me ask you about that. Now, when you stay in a facility, sometimes it's covered by insurance and sometimes it's not. So how do people finance these types of things?
Well, it's a great question, Chris. And there's a lot of different methods and ways. And in this day and age, there's a lot of different resources that people, one place that people will always start, it seems, is right there on the internet. They'll go out on the internet and they'll Google and ask, for funding sources. One of the basic places that I would tell anybody is, based on your area, be it locally or if you're in a different state, you start with looking at funding sources that the state provides. And there's a lot of sources statewide. There's sources locally, down to different sources that are provided through different types of parishes or churches. There's so many different areas. If you Google homemods.org, they have a litany of different websites that people can go on to where they would learn, for instance, if somebody has MS. My suggestion is you start with the MS Society. People with a child that has cerebral palsy, the Cerebral Palsy Association would be the first right step. But there's so many different sources to go to. And if you are a low-income individual, there's so many different places that you can turn to as well. So
I'm kind of jumping a little ahead, but what if you make certain modifications to your home and you want to sell it after that? Will it hurt resale?
Kelly, what a great question. That question gets asked all the time.
Thank you.
And well, it used to be that, early on, when some of these devices or this product was made, it looked more institutional. It looked more like it belonged in a hospital. So people always felt like, well, I don't want to do something. I don't want my house or my bathroom to look like a hospital. But nowadays, there's so many different products out there that look so good, and they blend right in, and they're decorative. And so as far as resale goes, statistically speaking, doing a modification of this type to one's home will add value to one's home. Now, does it add 10%? Does it add 20%? You'd really have to ask your realtor, and there's a lot of other aspects that would come into play. But it adds value. It does not detract from the value of your home at all.
So do you do certain things to try to keep up to date on recent additions or changes in this industry?
I do, Chris. I go to and I see a lot of different occupational therapists and physical therapists that are out getting their CEUs, their continuing credits, and I'm going to these same seminars that they're going to, learning about the same stuff that they're aware of, that they're keeping up with. Of course, I don't get credit for it, but I go to every possible OT and PT seminar. There are different home modification seminars that I've gone to through a source that comes through town, and
so are there new products coming online that's going to help people stay in their homes longer?
Well, Chris, there's products that have come out. A lot of technology, new technology products where people can do things down to the point of being reminded, to take their medications. There's things now that you can do that tie into your smartphone. It's just amazing how people are thinking so far out of the box. And, there's ways in which if somebody is at home, you're concerned about them, you're able to check in on them from your desk at work, from your smartphone. So yes, the answer is there's constantly new technology coming out, ways in which we can keep people at home safely and independently and cost effectively.
I would think on an emotional standpoint, I bet that it's so rewarding, and the reactions that you get from not only people who are able to stay in their homes, but for the children, the loved ones who are saying, thank you so much for helping them keep their independence.
Well, it's been personally very rewarding for me to help, whether it's just been putting in a grab bar or something more involved like a full bath modification, wheelchair ramps, things of that nature. People are so appreciative, but when you're able to do something for them and know that that's going to help them immediately, this afternoon, tomorrow, throughout the course of the week, and they're going to use it every day as they go about their daily activities and staying at home, and in knowing that they're at home where their memories are and where their grandkids come over or their kids come over. It's just a tremendous experience and feeling for me.
So, Terry, tell us again the name of your company, and if somebody wants to use your services, how can they look your company up, and how can they get a hold of you?
Well, Chris, the name of the company is Live Well Home Modification Specialist, and they could look Live Well up on the internet at www.livewellhomemod, that's MOD.com, or they could call 314-221-6668.
Thank you very much, Terry. Again, you're listening to Law Talk Live with Chris Dysart and co-host Kelly Jackson on the Big 550 KTRS. And when we come back, we're going to be talking to Iggy Fanlow, the founder of a company called Lively.
Law Talk Live continues. Here are your hosts, Chris Dysart and Kelly Jackson on the Big 550 KTRS.
Welcome back. You're on the Law Talk Live with Chris Dysart and Kelly Jackson, and we're talking about what's called aging in place, also known as avoiding the nursing home. And next we're going to be talking with a man named Iggy Fanlow. He's the owner of a company called Lively. And Lively is a software company that started in Silicon Valley, California, that has created a product that uses technology to monitor your older parent or loved one from a distance. If you have any questions, please call us at 314-453-5877. Hi, Iggy. How are you doing?
Hey, Chris. How are you today?
I'm pretty good.
Hi, Iggy.
Hi. Kelly, how are you doing?
Just fine.
Okay, Iggy, we know you started a company called Lively, so what is Lively?
Sure. Lively is a couple of things, and there's one goal in mind. The goal is to let older adults live independently as long as possible, and we accomplish that with two things. The first is a piece of hardware. It's a hub that you plug into the wall. It's cellular, so no internet is required in the home. And then 6 sensors, 2 for medication, 2 in the kitchen, and then a couple others. And with those sensors and the hub, we're able to take note of your medication compliance, your food and drink consumption, and your ambulatory activity that you're getting out. And so we take those activities, we share it with loved ones that are interested in knowing your daily activities. And then to close the loop, to make it a two-way street, we have Lively Gram. LivelyGram is kind of the reverse. It's the ability to share activities from loved ones back to the older adult. A lot of people have called it Facebook for seniors. So we let anyone in the family who wants to contribute photos, messages, posts. So think of photographs or Instagram, Twitter posts, tweets, and then we gather them, curate, publish, print, and then twice a month in a beautiful orange Lively envelope, it shows up in the U.S. mail, a 4 to 8 page photo booklet containing all that content. So that's what Lively is.
So was there a personal reason why you started this company?
There was a tangential one. Yeah, I went through a difficult divorce, actually. This goes back about 8 or 9 years ago now, and it was an extremely difficult time for me. I was not feeling the love from a lot of family and friends, and went through a very dark period in my own life. But I always felt that at the end of the day there would be a light at the end of the tunnel, and that I would have another chapter in my life. And then as I started to do some of this research in aging, just for other reasons, I got to meet a lot of older adults who were also feeling some of the, what I'll call the negative social aspects of aging, that chronic isolation. And I got to say, I realized that for some of them, just given their point in their lives, there may not be another chapter. So I really felt a really strong motivation at that point, a strong passion to try to make things better for them. So really to connect with their loved ones. It's funny. I've read many times that Phil Knight at Nike, when he's asked about the company Nike, they ask him, is it a footwear company? Is it an athletic company? And he says, no, it's an entertainment company. And similarly at Lively, we've been asked, is it a hardware company because of the sensors in the hub, or is it a mailer company? And we say, no, Lively is really a connections company. It's about connecting people.
So can you tell us a little bit about your background?
Absolutely. I was an engineer at Princeton, and I was pre-med. I was going to go to med school. And I guess I could say I had a not such a great experience working in a hospital my senior year. Not that anything bad happened, but it just did not motivate me.
Did you kill somebody, Biggie?
I just didn't feel that great about it, and so I decided to pursue something else. And my dad, who's also an engineer, he's a PhD, he said some of the really interesting problems that are being solved in engineering were being done in financial engineering on Wall Street. So I actually went to Wall Street for 15 years. Spent the vast majority of my career in derivatives. You can blame me and a bunch of others for the kind of the craziness that happened there eventually. But I left in '98 when I had the opportunity to do something else, and have spent the last 13, 14 years in technology. The first two with a couple of software companies, and I was reasonably successful. But after those two companies, a mentor of mine, I guess a good friend back from Wall Street, said to me, listen, you've run a couple of companies, you've done well. You've always had a real passion for health and wellness and medicine, and why don't you do something there? It's a huge, multi-trillion-dollar market, and I took it to heart. I said, let me just pick something small within it, and I started looking at the health and wellness sector. It was the whole sector is largely in need of refactoring. Let's put it that way. And I guess that's a timely comment with Obamacare and what's going on with the government now. But
what is refactoring?
Refactoring means it's just reinventing.
Okay.
Reinventing medicine. It's medicine is one of the things that you go to the doctor and it's not dissimilar to the way it was 40 or 50 years ago. And that's, other than education, medicine is probably the only two things that are similar. They're doing the same. You're doing things the same way they were done 30 or 40 years ago. And so, I looked at it and I said, what are the areas? I kind of looked at two things, two perspectives. One, what are the areas that are growing quickly and are large? And then what are the areas that are largely ignored by the entrepreneurial community? And if you kind of overlay those two, the aging space kind of jumped off the page a couple of years ago. It's becoming a little more popular recently, but up until a couple of years ago, it was largely ignored by the entrepreneurial community.
So how did you get started with this particular device?
Sure. That's a great question. So the particular device, I was looking at the social side of aging, speaking to a lot of industry experts, and then the venture capitalist that I was incubating this with, Mavron Capital, was thinking of it more from a hardware perspective, that the hardware part of it, the monitoring, could be done in a much, much better way. And then when I looked at the two, I said, we can actually combine these two and get to what we have Lively as today, which is, again, that connections company that, monitoring has this bad name, like you're big brother and you're overlooking people and you're a lab rat. And I said, no, we don't want to look at it that way. We want to say the reason you have Lively in your home is because people care about you and people want to know what's going on in your life. And then similarly, giving them an opportunity to receive, and so not just give information, but to receive information. And so that's where we ended up with Lively, this beautiful piece of hardware that, and I'd love to go into kind of what went into the making of it, but this beautiful piece of hardware that lets you collect data on activities of daily living, share it back, and then the LivelyGram going the other way.
So you don't have to be tech savvy to be able to do this, right? Because it's a sensor that you just attach to certain things. Is that right?
It is super simple. I could go on and on about how inexpensive it is. It's literally 1/10 the price of the competition. It's absolutely gorgeous. It was designed by a world-class designer who had worked at Apple. A lot of people see it; they think it's a wireless speaker, but you literally plug it in. There's not even an on-off button. You don't need an internet in your home. It's cellular, so it just captures a cell signal. And then the sensors literally have little pieces of paper tabs you pull off, and then you stick them. You stick them on things like a pillbox and a refrigerator door and maybe a microwave door in the kitchen. And the setup process takes under 5 minutes. In fact, one of our first systems, we launched less than 2 weeks ago, one of our first systems was installed by a 91-year-old gentleman in Florida. He called us up, and he said he had done it himself in 2 minutes.
That's impressive.
Yeah. Now, tell us a little bit how this monitoring system works. Let's say I want to use it to monitor my parents from a distance. How does that work?
Sure. So the way you do it is, like I said, you plug it in. You buy it at MyLively, MyLively.com. It arrives in the home. You take out the hub. You plug it in your loved one's home. You get a cell signal. You take the 6 sensors out. 2 go on pillboxes, like I said, and you just attach them. They've got really simple mounts. One on the refrigerator, and again, one other thing in the kitchen. A last one that's a custom sensor that could go anywhere. You can go on a fun place like a liquor cabinet or a more practical place like a bathroom door or a shower door. And then the last one's a key fob. And the key fob, we ask you to attach it to the keys you take with you when you leave the home. And then we start to see your daily activities, when you take your meds, if you take your meds, your patterns of daily living in the kitchen. So we start to see how many times you're opening the refrigerator during different times of day. And then the key fob is really a clever way of knowing when you're coming and going. The key fob is communicating with the hub. It's the only sensor that does not have an accelerometer, but it's talking to the hub. There's constant communication going on. But once you're more than about 30 or 40 yards from the hub, once that key fob is, it's too far away for the communication to maintain itself. So the communication is lost. So once you're more than 30 or 40 yards from the hub, we proxy that as having left the home. And then similarly, when you get back within 30 or 40 yards, when you're back home, we register that as being back inside the house.
Iggy,
so in the beginning, we asked...
Iggy, if you can just hold on for 1 second, we're gonna have to come back in 1 minute. You're listening to Law Talk Live with Chris Dysart and co-host Kelly Jackson on the Big 550 KTRS.
Law Talk Live continues. Here are your hosts, Chris Dysart and Kelly Jackson on the Big 550 KTRS.
Today we're talking with Iggy Fanlow, the founder of a company called Lively, which supplies a monitoring system so that people can keep track of their parents or other loved ones from a distance and track their usual routine. Welcome back, Iggy.
Oh, good to be back with you, Chris.
So tell us, how much does this device cost?
Yeah, that's a good point. It's $149. You get the hardware. It's free shipping in the United States, and the first 2 months of the service are included. After the 2 months are up, it's $19.95 a month, and that includes the cell plan that's associated with the box because it's cellular. It includes all the mailing, all the printing, and as many people as you want connected to it, and all the storage of the photographs and what have you of the things we collect for the Lively brand.
And as far as notifications, you get it via email or text?
That's correct. So when something's amiss, so we're measuring your patterns, and when something goes out of pattern in any of the categories we mentioned, medications or getting out of the house or food and drink, and something goes out of pattern, we will send you a notification. Those notifications can show up either as an email or a text, both native and also a native notification with iOS.
And somebody that has the Lively monitor, let's say my mom or something, if she has it, she does not have to have internet access, does she?
That's correct. That's one of the things that we thought long and hard about. Today's sort of quantified self and all these gadgets out there. Everybody's using Wi-Fi. Well, the reality is several things are true. First of all, pairing a Wi-Fi system, we all know, we've all gone through that. That can be a real hassle. Second, half the folks in our demographic, people over 70 living alone, do not have internet, both here and in Europe. So you don't want to cut out half your market. And then finally, the pairing of the sensors. We pre-paired the sensors. One of the things we found out from some of our competitors, they were having a great deal of difficulty with customer service because people were saying, I can't pair my sensors to the hub and it's not working, et cetera. Well, we said, you know what, let's eliminate that. Let's pre-pair them at the factory so they come out of the box already paired to the hub.
Now, where do you see this device going in the future, this technology?
Yeah. That's where we'd love it to go eventually. So there's a great quote by William Gibson that says, the future's already here, it's just not evenly distributed. We'd like to be part of that. There's just an incredible wave of technology happening now in sensors and medication compliance and what have you. And it's not just at Lively, it's at a lot of different places. Okay. Patches that you can wear to measure to do an EKG.
Okay, Iggy, sorry to cut you off here, but we're running out of time. So if somebody wants to look up more information about your product, where do they go?
Yeah, they go to www.mylively.com, MYLIVELY.com. Again, www.mylively.com.
Thanks a lot, Iggy. I really appreciate you giving us your time. Maybe we'll have you back on the show so we can talk a little bit more about your device. You've been listening to Law Talk Live with Chris Dysart and co-host Kelly Jackson on the Big 550 KTRS. Please join us next weekend at 3 p.m. on the same channel.
It was a good show. Great working
with
you.
Kelly.
It's great to know that there are so many great things out there for seniors because that's our future, too.
Yes, it is.
Any advice, legal or otherwise, given on the show is designed for general information.